Great. And we are now streaming on YouTube. So we will get started. So it looks like before we get started, though, Dave, the chat, if you click on the little button at the bottom of your button, that's at the button at the bottom of your screen that says chat, you should be able to pop open a chat area. Well, actually, it should be good because actually, I think if you typed it in, you know where the chat button is. So great. And we'll answer questions a little bit later. So first of all, welcome everybody. Hope everybody is healthy and safe. Um, I know that we've been through a number of trying times over the last few months. I think we're all going to look forward to some sense of normalcy, hopefully in the next few months. But in the meantime, I know that this has become the new normal. One of the reasons why we're running this session today is because as we move forward, one of the byproducts of the work that we've done up to this point is the fact that we know now that obviously there's a lot that we can do with distance learning over time. And we have a number of different tools that are available for you, especially for video conferencing and recording. Earlier this year, a couple months ago, I actually did a quick tutorial on how to use Google Meet, a little recorded video to explain to you how to record stuff for your students. But today, what I'd like to do is introduce everybody in the district to Jeff Bradbury. So Jeff's waving over there, and Jeff's our tech ed teacher at West Rocks. He's joined us this year, but he comes with a vast amount of knowledge. It was, in prior years, an educational technology integrator in New Jersey for many, many years, as well as a music teacher prior to that. But has had a lot of experience nationally on doing similar types of workshops and conference workshops around using Google, Microsoft tools, and so forth. We want to talk today a little bit, and I'm going to turn it over to Jeff in a second to teach you a little bit about Google Meet and how you can actually use it in your classroom, the basics of the tools. Once we do move forward over the next couple of months, what I am going to be looking at is that as a district, we kind of move. We're not saying that we're not going to use Zoom, but we would like to move away from Zoom and actually use some of the tools that you may have a little more control over, especially in the area of us being able to, as a district, control the security parameters for it, which are our Google and Microsoft tools. So there's a tool called Microsoft Teams as well that we'll be sharing with you, especially at the high school level, probably later in the summer. As another tool to be able to be used, but it is available right now in Office 365 if you already are familiar with it. But really, we're really trying to push our teachers towards Google Meet. So with that, I'm going to let Jeff kind of talk a little bit about Google Meet itself, and just as a cameo appearance, we have, if you're seeing Jeff Beckley on the screen as well too. Sometimes I guess I have fat fingers and I pressed Jeff B a little too quickly and added Jeff as a panelist. So welcome as as another panelist as well, Jeff, for the training. But Jeff, I will turn this over to you. You've got the helm on this. I'm just going to monitor the chat and then we'll answer questions at the end. If you want to take it for about the next 20 minutes.
Well, thank you, Ralph. It is so nice to see everybody. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Norwalk Public Schools webinar of Google Meet. My name is Jeff Bradbury. It is so nice to have you guys here, and I can't believe we have 142 amazing educators. First of all, guys, congratulations. We made it this far. I'm so looking forward to what we're going to be doing today. Today, we're going to be talking all about Google Meet, and today's webinar is going to be called An Educator's Guide to Using Google Meet and Online Video Conferencing. I want you guys to all do me a favor. First of all, if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat or the Q&A. I'm not sure what the right answer for that is, but leave them for us. If we get to them today, I definitely want to make sure that we have a chance to do Q&A. Today's all about you guys and answering your questions. Ralph, just double check me. We can all see my screen, correct?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So a couple things about where we are today. If you have any doubts about where we're going with digital learning, I'm so happy that you're here. Everything that we're going through today, I have handouts for you guys. I have videos for you guys. I'm going to give you guys access to everything that we're talking about today. And if you want to meet with me after this session, I am happy to find some time sometime this week to to meet with you guys and help you guys not only use Google Meet, but plan distance learning in your classrooms. So just a little bit about me. As Ralph said, my name is Jeff Bradbury. I am a proud member of the West Rocks Middle School faculty. This is my first year here. I teach 9 sessions of technology education, 3 amazing sections of broadcast journalism. And if you're on Twitter, you can follow us at WRMS Panther News. I miss my kids so much. I know you guys too. And I also serve the school and the district here in the technology coaching department. I'm also a Google certified trainer and innovator, but enough about that. Let's talk a little bit about what the agenda is today. Number one, we're going to talk about what is Google Meet, because there's a lot of different words that are coming out right now. And I want to make sure people know that one word means this or one word doesn't mean this. Also want to talk about how can Google Meet be used in the classroom. That's really important. Not only just talking about what is it and how, but how are we going to be using it? How are we going to be deploying it? How I've been using it in my distance learning classrooms. We're going to give you guys a tour of Google Meet, talk about some of the popular settings, and I'm going to show you guys both on a slide with words and bullet points and stuff, but I'm also going to be showing you live. And if you guys want to follow along with me, maybe open up a second tab, second computer, whatever, please feel free to do that. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about how to invite students into Google Meet. There's 3 ways that we're going to learn how to do that. And I think you're going to find the third way probably your favorite. And I know it's my favorite too, because they just opened it up this past weekend and I used it today for the first time and it was so easy. I'm looking forward to showing you guys that. And then finally, the last 2 things we're going to talk about, probably one of our most important features here, which is keeping Google Meet safe and secure. We're all hearing about what's going on in the world of Google Meet bombing, Zoom bombing, all these things that we have to be worried about. I'm here to show you guys how we can keep it safe and secure. And then with whatever time we have left, we'll talk about some of the advanced features, and I'll bring Ralph back to talk about 2 of the new things that you might have seen pop into Google Meet the last 24, 48 hours or so, and how your kids are going to love being engaged with you. So Ralph, please feel free to stop me at any point in time. We'll take a few questions here or there. But without further ado, let's kind of get started here. So first of all, what is Google Meet? First of all, it previously was called Google Hangouts. So you might have heard people saying, would you like to do a Hangout? Would you like to do a Google Hangout Meet or a Google Meet Hangout? There's been a lot of different versions of this. Now, technically, Hangouts and Meet are 2 different things. Hangouts is technically going away. And in fact, this past weekend, Google actually said, we're no longer calling it Hangouts anymore. We're just going to call it Google Meet. So they made sure that the icons are the same. The logos are all updated. From here on out, we're calling it Google Meet. It's a free video conferencing. You can have 200 plus participants in here, which means all your faculty meetings are covered, your classes are covered, your award ceremonies are covered. It is a great place to do that. It's also very quick and simple. And I want to stress that today so much, that this is a quick and simple way to connect with students and parents. I know over the last week, going into the end of the 3rd marking period, I've done a lot of one-to-ones with students about their grades. I've even done a lot of one-to-ones with parents and students, maybe 1-on-2, about their grades and about progress and about how they're doing. I've been trying to connect with as many students as possible, and we all do it through Google Meet. The most important thing here is that it's safe and it's protected under Norwalk Public Schools. And we're going to talk a lot about that because I want you guys to feel comfortable doing this to whatever capacity that you're interested in with your class and students. So a couple things. Let's talk about how to get into there. Okay, I said there's going to be a few ways. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to meet.google.com. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my sharing perspective here just slightly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up this screen here. And so what you're going to be able to see now is the slide presentation on the left, and I'm going to show you guys a live website. Now, what I'm going to show you guys here on the right, I'm going to give you guys the link for. So you're going to see how-to video tutorials on all of these different features, so you can go back and check it out, and also the whole slide deck. But I want to go to meet.google.com, and really that's one of the easiest ways. Another easy way that you can do it is that you can go to the waffle. And what do I mean by waffle? I mean that if I'm clicking on the Google screen right up here on the right, those 9 dots, we call that a waffle. And so you can always find your meet here. In fact, if you want, you can actually take these and you can move these icons around so that way they're comfortable for you and that way they're always where you are. So option 1 is meet.google, option 2 is the waffle. And so let's talk a little bit about creating meeting rooms. So the first thing that we want to do when we're creating our meeting room is we want to give it a name. And I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to go to meet.google.com. And every time you sign in, the background's just a little bit different here. But you can notice it says join or start a meeting. And I'm just going to start a meeting and I'm going to call this NPS hyphen meet training. Now, word of advice as I show you guys the different ways to do that. My big advice is to have a way of differentiating yourself. For instance, if you say that your meeting, your meet is going to be called April 14th, and then somebody else anywhere in the district wants to call themselves April 14th, there is a slight chance that people can get cross-pollinated on that. So you want to have a way. So for instance, for my classes, I call mine Bradbury, comma, Bradbury hyphen April 14th, period one. You know, I have some kind of a thing to make sure that the students are where they need to be. So I'm going to continue on to here. And the next thing it's going to ask me to do is to work on my camera. And again, I've got the pictures over here helping you guys through. And then over here on the right side, I've got the live version. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to make sure that our camera is on. And we're going to also want to make sure that we have all of the settings taken care of here. Because some of us have internal cameras, external cameras, you're wearing a headset. There's a lot of different things that we can work on in here. So what I'm going to do is now that I have this updated, I'm going to click on join. And as you can see here, it pops me right up to the add others interface. Now, I'm going to turn my camera off on the live version here just so I can kind of show off a couple things because this might be where your Google Meet is, and this might be how a lot of your students are looking at you. They don't want to turn on their cameras, and that's certainly okay. Couple things over here on the bottom. We have our name, and you can see I named this one testing. In the middle, we have our microphone, our on off button. We can disconnect here. This is where we turn on and off our cameras. Over here, we have closed captions. And what I'm finding is the students really do feel comfortable with the closed captions on. So I always put the closed captions on. There's no translation feature yet. I heard that's coming, but I don't, there's no roadmap for that yet. But I kind of was winked at the other day and said, don't worry, that's coming soon. We're going to talk a little bit about the screen shares and we'll also talk about the settings. Now, one of the new things that you may or may not be seeing, but should soon, is a little grid view button up here. Okay, that's going to be a new thing that we're going to be pushing out here. That's going to make everything grid. I call it Brady bunching. Okay, so just wanted to give you guys a quick tour here of the interface and how it works, so that way we can get comfortable. Your kids see the same exact thing. Okay, on the bottom left here, there is the dial in option. This isn't something that I do with my kids, but in case you are working with a parent who would rather call you than work on a computer, you can certainly have anybody use a telephone and dial into your machine. Obviously, it's audio only. All right. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I don't see a lot of teachers doing this, it's an awesome feature, is the attachments. Let's say you wanted to work on a PDF or bring in an image and you wanted to show that off. The attachment feature is really, really cool. I was working with one of our art teachers in the district about, everybody's on the same picture at the same time. That attachment feature's pretty cool for that. Okay. Now, the other thing here is on the bottom right, you'll notice the 3 dots up and down. We call that a snowman. Okay. So when you see the 3 dots up and down, just think of it as a snowman. This is where we're going to unlock a bunch of features. I'm going to just come over here and I'm going to hit record meeting. My suggestion is to record your classes. That may make you uncomfortable, but no one's listening to it. No one's watching it. It's kind of my insurance on what's going on. And most of my classes, honestly, I don't turn it on until I notice that kids are getting a little out of hand. And as soon as I hit the record button, things kind of calm down a little bit. So it does ask for consent. So the kids have to do a little hello on there. But you'll notice up here on the top, it now reads red. It says recording. So Google right now is recording my screen. It's recording my comments. If I turn on closed captioning here, you can see down here, it's actually starting to do the closed captioning. And that's going to be good for me as a teacher. And that's good for the students as well. And I do teach classes that have multiple languages in there. And I can turn off the recording at any time. I can also turn on the recording multiple times. So, for instance, if I keep the same Google Meet open for first block and second block, I don't have to jump out and jump on a new one. I can just go start, stop with the recording. And really, what happens is after 5 or 6 minutes or so, after being turned off, you get an email that says, here's the recording of your class. It's just a video file that goes into Google Drive. I've been saving them, and I figured over the summertime, I'll just delete all of them. So I use that record feature a lot with my classes just to keep track of everything and to make sure that everything's going where it needs to be. Okay. So far, so good, Ralph. Can students record also or only teachers? I believe it's just the person who started the meeting. So I believe it's teachers only. Okay. I have a couple announcements at the end of new things that have popped in, but to my knowledge, the recording is just for the teachers.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
guys, I'm on mute. So just give me a second, Jeff, when you need me. But yes, that is correct. It's only going to be for teachers.
Yes. Now, let's talk about the top screens here because this is where you're going to be seeing who's in. This is where I take attendance or how I take attendance. Up here, you're going to get a bunch of icons. The first icon here is where I say add people. All right. And you're going to see this populate with everybody in your class. Now, I'll tell you, this is really, really good because you can quickly see people. One of the things you're going to have to get used to is that it alphabetizes everybody by their first initial, not their last initial. So sometimes I'm going through my gradebook, alphabetical by last name or my spreadsheet, and I have to change things to be alphabetical by first name in order to make it a little bit easier on myself. But this view is absolutely great. So that way you see everybody that's in here. The other box here is our chat. Couple things. Chat is wonderful. A lot of your students may be using chat with you because they don't want to talk. They don't have a quiet space. It's not uncommon to be doing a class and you hear somebody vacuuming in the background or other kids, talking or whatnot. So you're going to find a lot of the kids would rather chat with you. Be aware that as new people come into your Google Meet, they will not see what I call the register receipt. They won't see legacy chat boxes. So if you're giving out a link to a website or a project or a Google Doc, and then somebody comes in, they won't see that. You actually have to post it again or post it a couple times. So that's just one of those little Google Meet isms that you have to be aware of, is that every time somebody walks into the chat or comes into the Google Meet for the first time, they're starting with a fresh chat. Okay. So I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to get rid of this screen here and I'm going to stop the recording. Okay. And if I want to turn off captions, I certainly can. And again, I can change my microphone. I can change my camera. I can do whatever I need to on here and we'll go from there. Now, before I go to the next setup, Ralph, let's just take a quick 2 minutes. Is there anything about the interface, about recording, attachments, anything that we want to address before moving forward?
No, I think there's just a number of questions that are coming up regarding FERPA. And I will get those addressed a little bit later for anybody that has those, just not to hold up the tutorial itself. But once again, the one thing is if you're very uncomfortable with that recording piece, then just use it live. I mean, that's a great live tool to connect with your students.
Absolutely. Absolutely on there. All right, so let's go into the adjusting settings. This one's a really, really quick little chapter here. As you saw, I just switched cameras. I know not everybody has different cameras, but maybe you have a microphone or such. There are a few settings, and you can always find those settings down here in those 3 dots. All right, can somebody please remind me in the chat, what do we call those 3 dots? Think really cold and frosty. Snowman. Good job, Joanne. Thank you so much. 3 dots on top of each other, snowman. 3 dots next to each other, shish kebab. Just remember that your kids will love that stuff. Okay. Um, you have audio settings and you have video settings, and you can find those over here under the settings menu. Okay. Be aware, because of COVID, because there's so much bandwidth going on to all of these video things, sites like Google Meet by default are putting you on a lower resolution. It's one of the reasons why I'm trying to wave to the cameras and stuff to make sure that I'm not lagging. By default, it's giving you 360p. So one of the things that I do before starting my classes is I actually manually bring this up to 720p just to improve my resolution. It's a little bit of a pain right now, but once we get past all of this stuff, I don't remember that being the case a few months ago. So just know that when you first start the meets, Google does have you at a lower resolution, and you can always up that resolution for yourself if you need to. And again, they're just doing that because of all the bandwidth that's hitting these video services at the same time.
Jeff, if
Uh,
I could put in just one thing that I've noticed too is every once in a while it's almost dynamic. If there's times when the bandwidth is not very good, I've actually seen my video cut off and just
mm,
continue with voice.
yeah.
So it does actually kind of control it a little bit that way.
And that's just not a Google. That's a good point. That's not just a Google Meet thing. Zoom has done that. I've seen that with Teams, and it's just because so many people. I think this. I just read a stat. Teams is getting about 20 million new hits a week, a day. I mean, it's going so fast that these servers are downgrading. Even Netflix, I think I heard the other day, Netflix is only going in standard definition these days. So somebody says how basically these are just drop downs. You can drop this down and it says 720, 360, etc. And this is really the same screen. It just you can toggle audio to video. It's just something that I do. It's one of those set it and forget it kind of a things. Okay. So let's talk about the important thing. How do we invite students into Google Meet? And it turns out that there's three ways that we can do it. And I'll talk about why not. I'll talk about who and who not, all those different things. The question is, let's see. So let's go on from there. Number one, sending a link. All right. Now, we talked a little bit before about the fact that on the bottom of the Zoom plus on the top, you can simply copy the URL of your Google Meet and send it to somebody. All right. So if a colleague wants to meet, you can open up a Google Meet, copy the URL, and send it to anybody. Ralph, remind me, I don't think we have any restrictions here. Can I invite a parent from outside of the district into a meet to have
No.
a one-on-one? Is that okay?
No, I don't believe so. So I believe that we have control down to our domain, but I will double.
Okay.
So, and one of the things that we also did, talking about the copying and pasting of the invite, there have been times in the past where, people have used tools like this. And this is where, once again, having the control of something like Meet is helpful, where a student can invite another student to join by sending them the link. In the past, you wouldn't have known potentially who that student is because they could have changed their name in Google. We've turned off that option, which is something that you can't do in many other platforms. So.
And that what Ralph said is important, making sure that the right people are in. And we're gonna get to that in just a second here. So just to go back 1 minute, I remember when I was working with the parents and doing the one-to-ones, the parent was on the kids domain, or the parent was using the kids account for that. So number one, you can always copy this and send it to a student, a colleague, whatnot. The other option, and I'm not going to go into this in detail, but you can go into Google Calendar. You can create an event. Okay. And while you're creating an event, there is an option to add conferencing. And this is one of the easier ways. I actually did this the first week of distance learning. I set up calendar events for all of my classes, and I did I did the Google Meet links this way. And you might think, my goodness, how did you handle all of that with all the kids? The neat part about it is under guests. In fact, let me try this right here. If I go into calendar.google.com, this is kind of antiquated at this point, but I'll show you what I'm looking at here. If I create a calendar event and I go under more options, I can go under guests. And instead of emailing everybody individually, I just type in the word Panther News and I have my Google Classroom, which is called West Rocks Panther News. So by doing this, I now have invited everybody in my Panther News because the Google Classroom automatically makes a Google group out of people. So that was the first way that I started to do things 4 or 5 weeks ago or so. And also with this, you can always use these little add Hangout Meet things. Um, but the way that I'm going to suggest doing it from here on out, because this just released, is a new feature in Google Classroom. Now, I want everybody to stop and take a breath and smile at this. If I'm in Google Classroom, if I leave, if I'm opening up Google Classroom and I'm in my class, you might have actually been greeted today with a little thing that says, "Did you know that you can now connect Meet?" Let me see if I can find one that doesn't. To be, I don't think I've done this yet. Nope. So here's a Google Classroom. And if I go into my settings, okay, under general, it now says Google Meet. This actually is new as of Saturday, Sunday, something like that. I can click generate Meet link. It now turns it on. And here, if I hit save, this now pops up right here. So what I've done in the past for the last 4 weeks is I would actually create a Meet, grab the URL, pop into Classroom, give them something in the stream that said, "Hey, here it is." Like this. You can see this. This is what I did in the past. I would copy it and paste it. It would take me 10 minutes to go through everybody's classrooms. Now, today, I just told all my kids, go to the top of Google Classroom, and this is it. Now, when we're talking about safety and security, who has access to this Google Meet? Only the kids in your Google Classroom. Who's allowed into your Google Meet? Only the kids in your Google Classroom. So it's safe, it's secure, and you're not going to have people from the outside, even, anywhere in there. Can the students click the link for Meet in your classroom when they're not there? No.
No, yeah.
No. We'll talk about that at the end. That's a great question, Jennifer. But no. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go. So I encourage everybody to click on this button and then check for it right here on the top of your banner. It's amazing. And it was so easy today. I'm still going to give them a hello, but I no longer have to take the time to change things and move things around. And it's so easier as we go with this.
So Jeff, before like I said, and just so you guys know, I'm actually following the comments on the side. I'm trying to compile them so we can get you some questions to answer, Jeff. But one that came up that I know that teachers have been wondering about, especially also we've talked about it in Zoom and other places. Can students enter before the teacher, the Meet?
The answer should be no.
Yep. That's, as far as I know, that's the way our settings are, and I will double check. But
Yeah, I think that's a Google all around thing.
yeah.
But the answer should be no, because the teacher or the person who starts it has to be in there
In
at
there,
the same
yeah.
time. I also wanted to address Richard's question. Can't they share the classroom code? I've got a couple answers on that. Number one, once your students are in the classroom, you should just get rid of the code. The way that I bring students into Google Classroom, and this is a hot topic right now because we're switching into the fourth marking period. Like, I'm not right now starting a new fourth marking period Google Classroom. I'm going to keep the same one from third marking period on. There's also a video that we can share around of how to take your students' emails from PowerSchool and quickly populate Google Classroom. I'll show you that really, really quickly, not in full. But if you go into people, you can go into students. And if you go into PowerSchool and you can copy all the kids' email addresses, you can paste them right in here. And in literally seconds, you've got all of your classes populated. And I've got 12 classes that I teach. I can populate all of my classes within 4 or 5 minutes. And so I don't even bother with the classroom codes because because PowerSchool just makes it so much easier to come in here and hit paste, and then the whole thing goes in. So I don't worry about classroom codes at all. How do I get rid of the classroom code? Classroom codes right here. You can display or disable. Okay. So let's go forward. I know we've got some more questions, but we'll take the Q&A at the end. I'm seeing what time it is. So let's see. Step 5, keeping Google Meet safe and secure. Number 1, this might even be some things that we're talking about here. Only meeting creators and calendar owners can mute or remove other participants. That's important. Okay. And that's important for two reasons. Number one, as soon as COVID started and as soon as distant learning was started, Google was listening. That wasn't a feature that was there, I'll call it 2 months ago. Okay. So Google is taking a track of what's happening in EDU and saying, well, teachers are being kicked out by students and teachers are being muted by students. And they basically said, if you're a teacher, you are in charge of your classroom, whether it be physical or virtual. Number two, meeting participants will not be able to rejoin nickname meetings once the final participant has left. That's a biggie. A lot of teachers were having the fear that once I leave my classroom or once I leave my meet, can the kids still get in there? No. And you have the opportunity to kick kids out at the end of the class. So today at the end, I said goodbye, waited a couple minutes to see if anybody had any questions. And then I just went delete, 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 delete. And as soon as they were out, I shut down. They can't get back in. Ralph, I have a question for you. Can students create Google Meets? That was a question we had earlier somewhere else.
No, I believe we have that shut down.
And that is an amazing feature to not have to worry about. So everything here is safe and secure. And then the other thing here is only teachers can create Google Meets. I know that was a Google thing. I didn't know where we were with the district stuff, but that is awesome on that. Now, let's kind of wrap this up and then we'll get into the pedagogy and we'll really open it up for things. First of all, if this is being good for you, if you're getting something out of here, can you give me a thumbs up or can you give me a hey or a yo or a not, something in the chat? Just let me know that you guys are out there. Let's talk a little bit about the advanced features as we go through here. As I mentioned, there's a new Chrome extension which we're pushing out as a district called Grid View. And it is awesome. It is how you take all of your students and what we call Brady Bunch them. Now, if I'm in Google Meet, I do have a couple options. I can use this new Chrome extension and I can highlight speakers. I can include myself. I can enable by default. I just have all of this stuff set up by default. You can also click in here and go to change layout and it will say highlight, sidebar, titled. And to be totally honest with everybody, as soon as I got this grid view, I haven't touched this because this is just confusing, especially if you've got more than 8 people in a room. You don't know that there's a kid popping in, popping out, popping in, and popping out. So the grid view is great. And as I said earlier, you can have over 200 kids in here. So you can see everybody just like we did with the Zoom call here. So this little look for it. I've worked with some teachers over the last day or so with this. Some of them have had to log out of Chrome and then log back in Chrome, and then it popped up. Okay, but you should be seeing that all it's working. The other thing you're going to notice up here on the left side is there's another Chrome extension that we're trying to unlock here that gives thumbs up, well done, a little a wow, but it also gives the ability to have students raise their hand. Okay. So a lot of what these Chrome extensions are doing is to make Google Meet look like and act like what Zoom is. And again, the advantage of Google Meet is that it's controlled by administration. So it's awesome that way. So look for this as we go through. And I've been having a good time with this. I have a class that is amazing and wonderful, but they're just very, very quiet. Well, today they came alive because every couple seconds I said, hey guys, are you there? Give me a thumbs up. And they did. Okay. Or I have a class that in order to have a good time with the class, we bring our jokes out and we all tell jokes to each other throughout the class and as we go through here. So now I have everybody clapping at each other's bad jokes. It's another way to keep kids entertained and informed and engaged. I've been having a good time with these two features on here. Lastly, before we break it into Q&A and stuff like that, there are some videos that we have. And as I mentioned before, on the website, and in fact, Ralph, if it's okay, let me just put this in the meet and we'll email this out to everybody. But I'm going to put this here. And on this page is the whole presentation that we just did. And it's got a lot of amazing video tutorials that are very, very short. The one that I wanted to bring up today is the one here that Eric Kurtz did on digital whiteboards. If you're a math teacher, science teacher, art, I mean, really anybody here, because I'm using this stuff. Using the whiteboard tools is pretty awesome. And one of the new ones that just came out is the changing of the background. I don't know how you guys would do that, or if you'd even want that with your students for the, for obvious reasons, but hey, you can do it now on Google Meet. So there's a lot of resources on here. If you're looking for extra help, I've got all the links to all the Google Help articles, and these are very, very short, written tutorials, a lot of them with pictures. And guys, that was an educator's guide to using Google Meet. My name is Jeff Bradbury, and Ralph, thanks so much for having me. Let's open it up to any questions, and thanks for being here, guys.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thanks, Jeff. Listen, I know that there's a couple questions that kind of came up. We'll make sure that we actually post all this information. Hopefully, we may end up missing a couple questions. If we do, we apologize. But it's great to kind of see this much engagement. If you can, though, if you have your hand raised in the chat as a participant, I'm assuming that you probably want to be able to say something. So if you can, just keep your hand raised, and I'll get to you guys in just a second. It looks like Kathleen is one of the first. Let me just kind of unmute you real quick. Hey, Kathleen.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Kathleen. What's up?
Make a Google Meet link in a classroom. That is then a consistent link, correct? They can always access that for that class.
Yes, but they, to my knowledge, and again, this just came out this weekend, they can't access the Meet without you being there.
Okay, and then is there a way to password protect that, or is that secure because it's within the classroom and I own it and I made it, so it should only work for those students?
So the question is being password protected. If you set up your classroom so that way nobody else can go into it, like be added to it, I think I would consider that password protected. You can, of course, always go into the classroom settings. I'll just do this real quick. I think you can still see here. You can always go into here and say visible to students or not. So if that's a concern for anybody, you can always turn it off. In other words, the Meet link is still there, right? You can even reset it if you want. Look at that. All right. You can copy it. You can reset it. But you can also turn it off. So in other words, it still exists. But if I hit save and come out, it's not shown to the students anymore. So there's a lot of control over that for teachers.
Great, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kathleen. And the next person is Allison.
Hey, Ralph.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. You know how Zoom has the breakout rooms where
Yes.
kids can go meet separately? I don't know. I've been using that. Is there a feature like that on Google Meet?
Not yet. There are some ways around that by having multiple Google Meets, but it's not the same thing as Zoom where you can be in everywhere and bounce around. Ralph, I'll let you comment more on maybe a recommendation or something like that, but I wouldn't want to be bouncing around multiple.
Yeah, no, I mean, really, I think that's a question as you kind of, obviously then Allison, you're using it enough to know how to kind of differentiate over time. And it's something that isn't available yet in Google Meet. I believe though there is a breakout feature maybe in Teams, and that may be
Yes.
something we can look at in time too as well, but not specifically in Google Meet right now. Thanks, Allison. Let's see, Emily. Oh. Hang on a second, Emily.
So,
Okay, good. You're unmuted now. Sorry.
okay, now you can hear me.
Yep.
Early on in the webinar, I might have misunderstood Jeff's comment, but being that I have a class that has, kids that have I'm an EL teacher.
Mhm.
That's our new acronym. So I have kids that literally are arriving now and have just come to the country. And so I speak to them in Spanish and write in Spanish. And then I have another bilingual history class I teach. And he mentioned something about multiple languages on Google Meet. So right now I just go back and forth in case I have somebody in the, in the class that, like I have a Haitian student, so we go back into English. But did I misunderstand? Is there a feature where I could set up subtitles in Spanish or something?
Not yet.
Okay.
Because Google Translate is so strong, you just know that it's coming, right?
Yeah.
Microsoft has it. They've got a translate feature in PowerPoint.
Hmm.
This is where technology is moving.
Okay. Well, I just use my mouth meanwhile, but
And if you can go back and forth, that's great. I'm fortunate in one of my classes, I have a support personnel, and
right. That's what we have at Norwalk High too. Yeah.
we go back and forth where I
Wonderful.
speak for a couple seconds, she speaks for a couple
Yeah.
seconds. And there
Oh,
are times where, I'm on a second monitor here where I'll bring up translate.google and we do the best that we can. But
yeah.
at this point, the captions is only English.
Okay. Okay. Thanks very much for answering.
Thanks, Emily. Let's see, Caitlin, hang on one second. Let me see if I can get you unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I just had a quick question because a lot of us were trying to utilize Meet a bit more. Does Meet have the ability to share screens with audio yet? Because a lot of us have video that we're trying to show our students, and we are unable to share video when we present our screens with audio at this time.
So I'll be honest, as the guy that's got all of this audio podcasting equipment around, the only way that I get around that, and I'm not kidding, I go like this. And we watch a 5-minute video and I just have it play out of here. It doesn't happen, unfortunately.
Okay.
And there's no way of getting, I've even tried to connect like my broadcasting software and it just isn't working.
Yeah.
I wish, and anybody will tell you that if you can go on any of the Google products, there's always a little question mark. Just put your question in there.
It's been, we've gone on and asked, and it's a very popular question right now. And there's many teachers that are writing in angst, like, why do you not have this feature? So it's, yeah, I was just hoping that maybe you had heard something down the line that it was coming, but.
Once again, Caitlin, we'll be talking more about Microsoft Teams next year with the high schools.
Okay.
And I believe that feature is actually in Microsoft Teams.
It is right now, you know that?
I'm 90% of the percent sure that it is.
Okay.
I have to go back and check, but I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is.
All
So
right, I'll check it out.
There's a question in there, Ralph. There's a part B about using things like Kahoot.
Yep.
If you're using Kahoot, you as the teacher should give the students the code. The students can open up Kahoot in a different tab. So they're playing the game natively, whether it be on their phone or on their whatever, so that you don't need to have a pass through from a teacher to the student. They can play it natively on whatever device they have. So that's, I don't know who was saying that, David or somebody else over there, but yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. So great. Thanks, Caitlin. I just want to get to everybody's questions if I can. Teresa is the next person up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Yes, definitely.
Okay, my quick question. I'm pretty low tech. So when I attempt to do this, is there anywhere that I can go to get support? When I
Regarding,
run into a problem, like, which I probably will.
oh yeah, no, definitely. So, I mean, sometimes real-time support may be difficult. The technicians are actually making a point of answering technical questions, not only for Chromebooks and hardware, but for any of these types of tools. So if you're in the middle of something, you may not be able to get support. But if you did have questions, the one place I would post it is on the Google Classroom that we're using. Just post it right in the stream, and people have been answering each other's questions too, if I'm not able to get to them. And then secondly is to reach out and actually just put in a call ticket. And guys have been responding within, hours on those to try and help. So, I mean, then if none of those work, just, email me or, email somebody else in central office. And we just want to make sure we're tracking it with call tickets, but we'll help in any way that we can.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. Lawrence Hillman, Larry. Hang on one second.
Can you hear me now? Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yep.
Yes. How are you, Ralph? How you doing, Jeff?
Thank you for being here. Hey.
I had the same question about the breakout rooms. That one's been answered. But my question is, when I make a Google Meet and I get that little link up in the banner at the top of my classroom, does that stay with that classroom from day to day, or do I have to create a new Meet every day?
When you open it up in Classroom and that the link was here, that is in that classroom, I'll say now and forever. But in settings, you can make those adjustments and stuff like that. But for all intents and purposes, that link is that link. You can use it tomorrow for the same class.
Okay,
And again, the students can't enter that until you're in there.
I got it. I have to start the Meet. All right.
Correct.
All right.
How you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Larry's my hallway neighbor.
Yes.
So, thanks, Larry. Hang on one second. Let me get to the next person. If you guys have, if I have answered your question, if you can just unraise your hand, that would be helpful too. So I make sure that I don't keep calling on you over and over because it's they're flipping in a very strange way. Amanda Fisher is next, and you should be unmuted now.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
So I just wanted to review, you had talked about getting emails off of PowerSchool and being very quickly getting like all of your students or classes on there very quickly. Can you just touch base about that again? I'm like you, I have multiple sections.
Sure.
So it was very fast and I didn't get a chance to take it all in.
Well,
Here's what I'd like to suggest with because this is on YouTube. I don't want to be pulling up my PowerSchool.
no, exactly. So that's
Right.
I was you caught me on that. What we can
Right.
do though, Amanda, though, is I can ask Jean to do a real quick cheat sheet to explain
Okay.
to you how to be able to and send that out as well as post it on the classrooms. I'll work on that. So just how do you pull your class lists and emails from PowerSchool as a teacher?
Right, it was that for the purpose of setting up Google Classroom or for Google Meets?
It was for the process of quickly adding students to a brand, I'll call it a brand new classroom. And there is a video that I explain it, Ralph, but I mean, it's got my kids on. I don't know what the security and stuff like that is, but
Yeah, no, I think actually Jean actually already has, I think, a cheat sheet on this, but I will,
Okay.
Okay,
I'll check with her. And there's just a couple of steps. That's easy enough to get out to you guys.
okay, thank you so much.
Sure, no problem. Definitely. Hang on one second.
and Ralph, I got about 5 to go. So if we want to do a Q&A session at any point in time, I'm happy to come back and just do this for a while.
Okay.
I got
All right,
about
so
5
let me-
more.
I'm just going to take one more question right now, and then we'll get to the others. Mary, Julie, Joan, Dave, Jen Scanlon, and Rich. Feel free to just shoot me an email and, or Jeff, and we'll make sure that we kind of cover you guys. The last one I'm just going to cover right now, though. The next one in the queue was, and everything just kind of moved around again. Randall. It was the last one, so hang on one second.
Hello.
Oh, yep, you're here, Randall. What's up?
Hi, and I see that Coral had the same question. So if you want to generate the Google Meet link in Google Classroom and you have multiple classrooms, is there a way to give each class the same code or to edit the code that exists on the top of the Google Classroom?
I would strongly suggest having different links for a lot of reasons. If you go into settings, can you have the same link show up on every single? I wouldn't. First of all, no, it's not possible because it's randomly generated.
Okay.
And I wouldn't. I would just make it be a new link. The fact that you can now do this up on the top right is awesome. And it's so easy just to walk into Google Classroom, click on the link and pop. I mean, I saved about 15 minutes today just doing that.
Okay. And another thing, the attendees list, is there a way to get a list of who attended the meeting afterwards, like sent to you versus just doing attendance on the side?
So couple things on that. I actually know. There is a video in here where somebody, let me just get rid of this. There is a video in here where somebody recommends a way to do, you know what? This guy here who's awesome. His channel is called Flip Classroom. He does have a video with suggestions for attendance. I didn't put it on here because I didn't want to say something that, because your school does attendance differently than my school. That's why I didn't put it on here. Personally, I have a Google form that every time that the kids come in, I give them the Google form and I ask them to fill it out. I also do that random times during the class period, so that way they don't just walk in for the first 5 minutes and then leave. I also have another spreadsheet that it's just all of their kids, and I just check down the road. So
Yeah.
I've got a variety of ways of doing attendance, but that's just me. No one's ever said I had to do it that way.
Okay.
And that whole idea of a question of the day, like I said, if they're logging into the Meet, maybe just have them go to the classroom, answer that question. That can serve as attendance too. But I do see where you're coming from though with that, Randall, too. It would be actually a nice feature to be able to kind of see that.
All right, thank you.
Great, thanks. So, guys, I know our time is up today, and I want to be very cognizant of the time that you guys have put in. We'll keep taking a look at the, Jeff and I will kind of scroll through all the comments and the posts in the chat to see if there's anything else that we can answer for you. We'll post them on the Google Classroom. I hope this was beneficial to you guys. Jeff, you're a wealth of knowledge, and we couldn't be happier to have you as part of the Norwalk team, and looking forward to doing a lot more work with you over the next over the next few years. But we really do. We appreciate everything that, taking the time today, and you can talk through Google Meet much better than I can. So I definitely appreciate it as well. But we will hopefully continue to answer these questions. If you guys have any other suggestions or any other webinars that you'd actually like us to be doing right now, please let us know. And that means the tech department, as well as Jeff and others, will make sure that we kind of put these together even on a weekly basis if we have to, so that we have opportunities for you. I know that, if it comes to Google and specific things with Jeff, he's in the process of trying to get himself moved. So he's going to be cutting down, you're going to be closing up your old house studio and getting ready for your new one. So maybe about a week before we can get Jeff back on board. But we do have other opportunities too. If we, like I said, if anybody needs any help, just feel free to reach out. With that, Jeff, thank you so much. And everybody stay safe. And take care. I mean, hopefully we'll be back together in person, in the not so near future. So